Cymru is the Celtic nation that I live in. It's called Wales in English, which doesn't sound very Celtic at all. It's not. In the Welsh language, unless there is a specific reason, historically or grammatically, we don't begin words with wa. We begin them with a qua. It's just how the phonology of our language works. And we don't squeeze L and S together at the ends of words. That's not natural in any Celtic language. In fact, that's an indication immediately that it comes from English or French because of the history. So why is Cymru called Wales in English? I'm Benjamin, and the answer is actually to do with a worldview, to do with how the Saxons saw things when they came into this island. To understand how the Saxons, and later the English, came to call this country Wales, another question actually gives us insight into how they see the world, or saw the world, and that's to do with the English language, actually. Why is it that English, which is world-renowned for having loanwords from every language you can think of, has so few words from Welsh, when it's existed alongside Wales and the Welsh language for longer than any other language in its history? Just look at these words. Bungalow, one of my favorite words in the world, is actually from Hindi. French gives English its panache. How much of English is French? Loads. Zeppelin from German. If you like a cookie, that's Dutch. If you like to click, ultimately comes from Old Dutch. If you like a pizza, that's Italian. You can't even discuss science without Greek. If you like to go skiing, that's a bit of Norwegian. Goulash, Hungarian. Loads of political words for crazy left-wing students come from Russian. If you like to sit on your patio on your ranch playing your guitar, that's all from Spanish. One of my favorite words is indigo, from Portuguese. Nice. You get the point, it just goes on and on. Shenanigans, if you're being a bit silly, from Irish. But Welsh, which has shared the story of history alongside English neighbours for so long, there's almost nothing in English. Tad gave us dad. That's an important one. But the point is, there's hardly anything in English from Welsh. Why is that? In fact, the answer to that tells us a lot about why Wales is called this. It's because they cared so little about the culture that they came into. They didn't even absorb the words. They dismissed them at the level of not even being an enemy. It was not worth them dismissing. But where's this word Wales from? Because that actually reinforces what I'm saying and tells a story. In the 3rd century BCE, a tribe is recorded as being called the Volcae, in what is now southern Germany. They probably spoke Gaulish or a language very similar to it. They were a Celtic tribe. However, the Germanic tribes were advancing south, and this Volcae tribe, or people, stopped the Germanic peoples for a time. And the Germanic tribes came to associate anyone to the south with this tribe, Volcae. Remember what I said about GW and W in Welsh? Volcae probably means hawk warrior people. Gwoch in Welsh today. Very similar. Them being south of the Germanic world, Rome came up from the south. And along the west, a similar people, the Gauls, which the Germanic peoples might have seen as being the same as the Volcae. And so when Rome took them over, they came to associate all of the Romanized people with this word, Vela, or their word for it, Velha, Welha, Welhas, plural. But the meaning changed over time. So originally it was just foreigner. But remember, this was in the 3rd century BCE. By the time Wales came along, or by the time Welsh people understood themselves as being a nation, was probably the late 8th century at least. So 1300 years, that's a long time that passed between these events. So we're talking well over 1,000 years had passed. This word changed meaning. It came to be associated with Romanized peoples, peoples who had been conquered by Rome, peoples who adopted Roman culture and lived under their rule, especially along the borders of Germanic lands. In the video I made on Welsh-like place names across Europe, I showed around the periphery of the Germanic world you get names like this. Wallonia, Walsey, Welshland, all these different places connected to this idea. These people are foreign to the Germanic peoples who had been Romanized. And then as it evolved over the centuries, it came to mean a lower class peasantry that had taken on Roman customs. And so when the Saxons came into Britain from the 5th century, they're encountering a people they associate with being Romanized peasants. And as the Roman Empire breaks up, the prestige language having been Latin, and their language, be it Anglic, Frankish, Burgundian, etc., they're seeing the Britons as beneath both of these cultures. So they're not really taking them into consideration. They see them truly as peasantry, people belonging to the hinterland, beyond the cities, which is why so many places in England are called Walton. It means Welsh farm or Welsh town, places out of the way. The Germanic tribes simply went around them. The family name Wallace in Scotland means Welshman, men of Strathclyde. Cornwall means the Welsh of the Horn, the peninsula, and Wales, the plural of Wela, came to mean Wales, the Welsh, where there's more of them, I guess. And so there is a cultural context to this. It does not just mean foreigner, it's a specific kind of foreigner, a Romanized foreigner, peoples who had been subjugated by Rome, who were not really worth their time because their culture was already of lower status under Rome already. So they weren't going to be interested in using it in their games for political power, something to brush away into the countryside and not really worry about. Now, I don't want to be negative. I know it's hard not to be when someone's calling you a peasant Romanized foreigner, but that's what we were called. The fact that we managed to unify this country in terms of an idea of being a country is remarkable. And to turn the name Wales into a sense of pride, that's a feat. Taking lemons and making lemonade kind of thing, making it better despite the weather, is something the Welsh have to do a lot. And Cymrogi is where Cymru comes from in our language, the name for our country, ourselves, or in our own language. But what's remarkable about this word, which means our fellow compatriots, is that it also meant our land. Our compatriots, our land. There was no distinction in this. Land and people. For centuries, the distinction and it being two separate words, Cymru and Cymru, was actually an invention that came quite late. To discuss the people was to discuss the land. To say that you were a country was to discuss you were a people. That makes the idea of nationhood in Welsh quite distinct from the versions that were put on us from England. And that's a sense of pride as well. Well, if you'd like to help the channel, donate via Patreon, buy me a coffee, leave a super like. And for those of you who are Patreons, on the screen now, diolch yn fawr iawn am wylio. Thank you very much for watching.